Hello, 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 and welcome to the Blue Oval Podcast. I am Ben Weissel, and joining me, as always, Garrett Allen. How's it going, man?
Ben, it is finally truly the off season. It is now finally downtime. This is the part of the year where I thank God that we don't really cover pro yet.
Yeah,
It will come one day. It will come one day. Today is not that day. We might still have some pictures out there from the Olympic trials, but with family, you're about to go see family. I know we just talked about that earlier, and I'm at some solace right now. Is the best way to put it.
yeah, it's a nice little downturn. We need them. We need the up and down nature of track and field. I think us just going up, up, up the entire year, we'd get burned out. So it's nice to have these little troughs where we can relax a little bit, and then we can obviously build back up once the season starts. But with that said, I mean, there is still plenty to talk about. The
There's actually a
offseason
lot.
is transfer season. There's coaching movement that we probably won't even be able to get to today, but because there's just so many people headed to the portal, and obviously with the NCAA changes and a variety of different things, we're just seeing more and more athletes end up in the transfer portal. And this year looks like that'll be no exception. Before we get to that, one new rating on Spotify. We're recording this earlier in the week, so
Yep.
to get a new rating is after a few days from recording our last podcast. We'll take it on Spotify up to 162 there. Make sure you guys are leaving ratings, reviews, Apple, Spotify, subscribing on YouTube. Anything else before we jump in?
Let's jump right into it.
All right, let's go to the transfers. And we talked about this person last episode, Hilda Olemomoi, being on the transfer portal. We had a lot of heavy speculation / maybe informed opinions that she would end up at Florida. And of course, she does, looking like the perfect Parker Valby replacement, going from Alabama, joining her old coach, Will Palmer, who is at Florida as well. Absolute win-win for I think both sides. And Florida now I think is a team that you got to pay very close attention to for a lot of these other names that are going to be coming on the portal, because they're going to be looking to rebuild this squad that's losing quite a bit of talent out the door this year.
Yeah, I mean, all four of their top names, whether or not they were actually top names. I think Allison Wilson's returning, right? But Mazzadowni's gone, Thorner's gone, Volby's gone, Asicola's gone. Um, I would still respect Florida and be careful about Florida, but they have to add another name.
Yeah.
They do. I think they have to add at least one more All-American to really kind of be back into that competitive stage again. I really like Allison Wilson, and Hilda's the perfect Parker replacement, but they need another piece there.
Oh yeah.
And I was kind of thinking about this earlier, and I'm like, I think this is actually way more damaging for Alabama than it is a
Yes.
good thing for Florida. I mean, you kind of look at like what Alabama's done. You know, you have Doris Lemingel and Hilda Olemomoi, who very, very realistically, and maybe even favored to go 1-2 at the national championships.
Yeah.
I don't think Allison Wilson. It's not only it's unrealistic to say that she could be like a top 50 name. I think she already was this past year. Or Brenda Two-Way could be an All American. And you know, if you're Alabama, I have a suspicion that they're going to bring in at least one more.
Yeah.
Even if they did keep Hilda. And if that happens in a year where NC State loses firepower and NAU loses 2 All Americans, like it's a really big shame for Alabama just because they have the talent to be dangerous.
Yeah, that's a good point. That one that we didn't really touch on last week. But yeah,
Really quick. Did I say Allison? I said Joy. I meant Joy Gill.
I thought so. Yeah, I wanted
Okay,
to
that's what I
make.
meant. Yeah. Sorry, my fault.
I was like, wait, I thought we just talked about Allison Wilson.
She was at Alabama. She was at Alabama. Now she's at Florida. But Joy Gill is the new one. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're all good. No, it's a great point about the effects on Alabama, because yeah, they certainly could have been great. They're going to be still very good. It's just losing someone of Hilda's quality, you're going to drop down quite a bit, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. So we really already talked about her for
Yeah.
ad nauseum. So I don't know really how much more we can. This was the worst kept secret in the NCAA. So we can move on if we want.
Absolutely. Let's move on and let's go to South Carolina's Judy Kosgei, who is entering the transfer portal, will have 3 full seasons of eligibility, we believe, across cross country, indoor, and outdoor. Had a fantastic freshman year, 19th place in cross country, ran just bonkers times of 201, 407, a 201 in the 8, 407 in the 15, and 910 in the 3K. She looks every bit the budding superstar that those times would indicate. She is going. I mean, I feel like I keep saying this. It's rare you're going to see someone this good with this much eligibility land in the portal, and then we see more and more people end up in the portal, and it's not quite as rare. But she is a special case of someone who has this much eligibility, 3 full years, and has already kind of proven herself in her short time in the NCAA so far.
And this is kind of what I was hinting at when I was talking about Florida, like needing one
Yeah.
more piece. This is the piece. You need Kosgei. Will someone else probably come up? Maybe, but this is the most natural fit. You now have tons of money open. Hilda's now there, right? There's, I think, that kind of Kenyan connection there that kind of offers a little bit of familiarity. And she's a true long distance runner who has mile chops. Like that's pretty much Flomena Asicol.
Yeah.
So I think it's Florida again. But I mean, do
It could
you
be
have any
Alabama.
others? It could be Alabama.
They have the
In
money
fact,
now.
if it's actually Alabama, then my whole point about what I said earlier becomes way more interesting. Who else other than like maybe those two though?
I think we mentioned Arkansas with
Yep.
Hilda, and I think that makes sense for Kosgei as well. I'm trying to think of any other programs.
I think like New Mexico now, Oklahoma State. I could see Oklahoma State getting involved, especially now that they lose Taylor Rowe, Gabby Hentman.
What do you think about Texas? This could be a big splash. Like the team isn't quite there, but it could this seems to be like they picked up
Like, could
Olivia
they?
Howe, and this is basically Olivia Howe with a lot more eligibility left and better on the grass.
Yeah, definitely better on the grass. Although Howell's actually still pretty good on the grass.
Yeah.
I I think like the brand name of Texas is like I think they could get her if they really wanted to. I don't know if they will do. I don't know. I'm not sure I see that just because Coach Haveman's teams have never really had a heavy international
Yeah.
presence. So
Yeah. No, that's fair. I'm thinking, yeah, like a big team looking to kind of get back on the map, who would have the money to kind of
yeah,
make a big splash, and she's someone that would be worth doing that for.
yeah, yeah, definitely, sure would. All right, let's move on. Going off of Kosgei. Uh, Yaseen Abdalla, transfer portal, grad
Interesting.
transfer. Yeah, interesting move here. I have no idea. He's a Maryland native. Um, if he goes back to the East Coast, is it Virginia? Is it Georgetown? Is it UNC? Like, that could maybe be like a thing. But obviously, like, it doesn't. That clearly he's proven that like it doesn't really like geolocation does not
Yeah.
matter for him. It's like he's gone to Texas, he's gone to Tennessee. Where do you have him going? Like, where could you see him going?
Yeah, and I think I do agree that Virginia makes sense, and I also think we need to point out that he has one cross country season of eligibility and one indoor season, but no outdoor. That's correct, right?
Whatever the article says, yes.
Okay, I believe that
I
that
don't
is.
remember what I wrote.
I believe that is the case. So, yeah, I think the East Coast, those schools make sense. I don't know if it's necessarily like a super great culture fit, but I think Syracuse would also like for the eligibility that he has left. I kind of like him supercharging that lineup in cross country. North Carolina, I think you also mentioned in the article. I think that makes a lot of sense as kind of just a quick hit for them to help their cross country roster.
Yeah, I guess you say Syracuse, and I'm just like, nah, not Syracuse. But then I'm also like thinking, like, well, why not Syracuse? You know, so that's a fair point. I really struggled on this. I'm like looking
Yeah.
back at like who I maybe said in the article here, and I think I threw out names like Virginia, right? Of course, and I said North Carolina, Georgetown, Syracuse, Notre Dame. Oh, I did say Syracuse. Oh, okay. Yeah, Notre Dame. I could see Notre Dame being that. Wake Forest. I could absolutely see Wake Forest
Yeah, Wake
kind of
Forest,
getting
good call.
invested here. I mean, they're losing. They did lose all these guys. They're kind of building back up. Yeah, I mean, if he's like a 1 year rental, why not? So
Yeah, I'm trying to yeah, there really isn't. I mean, Alabama, if he stayed within the SEC, I think like they it's not their typical transfer, but if they maybe strike out with some internationals and they just want to basically roll over the money for 1 year, might make sense. I mean, he especially he could score points for them in the indoor season. I think just the lack of outdoor eligibility probably hurts his cause right there.
yeah, I think that's that because you look at teams like the SEC. There, I mean, the outdoor
Yeah.
championship season is so important for a lot of them. So I don't know if that would be like the proper allocation that they use
Right.
there. Because if they would want someone with 3 season value at that point.
Yeah.
But I could see I think Virginia. If you had to like really like give me a guess, I'd say Virginia. But we'll see.
Yep. No, I think that's a good call. Let's go to his I think his former teammate, right? They're at Texas at the same time. Is that right? Cole
It
Lindhorst.
maybe it was close. It would have been
Yeah.
maybe just as one was going out. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Very tight. He is entering the transfer portal as a graduate transfer. Has 1 full year of eligibility across all 3 seasons. Had a fantastic outdoor season. Has run 146 in the 800, 340 in the 1500. Definitely looks like he was growing in confidence throughout this, like the end of this past season. This is another tricky one. I really don't have a great feel. I think like a Texas A&M makes sense, and I think yeah, as I'm scrolling through this article, I think you mentioned that like he gets to run with all those 800 guys.
But like, are you really going to go to Texas A&M
Yeah,
after you go to
after being at
Texas? You're going
Texas,
to go
yeah,
to
I know,
Texas Tech
probably not.
after. I struggle to usually with I just automatically assume whether it's true or not. I automatically assume with all graduate transfers that it's a amicable breakup and that the other guy is
Sure.
just looking for a new experience or a more usually like a degree that they're kind of pursuing for their masters.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually that's what happens, at least not all the time, but most of the time in my experience. So that's why I think he would maybe still have loyalty to like Texas and not go to A&M or Tech. I mean Oklahoma State, Kansas. I'm trying to figure out where oh you know what, Ole Miss.
Oh yeah, that'd be a great one.
Ole Miss. That's
Yeah,
and I didn't even mention it. Ole Miss would have been perfect. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Ole Miss, and then the other one that you mentioned that I liked is Iowa State. I think Iowa
Yeah.
State is it,
And they
it,
would
I
get involved.
yeah, I think they would love to add someone like him into their 800 roster, and I think he would probably be pretty happy to have all those guys to train with. They have a great track record of obviously improving guys from good to great in this event,
Could
and
you
he could
imagine?
certainly be someone right there.
Yeah, could you imagine that they have Lindhorst with McClear and Kipiego next year?
Is McClear coming back next year? Is he? Is he?
He has eligibility per
Wow,
Tifers.
that's wild.
I know. I thought he was done, but no,
That
he
would
has
be
the
crazy.
eligibility because he was injured for that entire year. 2 years
Yeah,
back,
that's
I
right.
think. So
Yeah, he's probably
yeah,
got some injury red shirts. So yeah, no, I like Ole Miss and I like Iowa State. I think those are kind of the two that I land on as well as being the most likely possibilities. Let's head to Akron, and where we see two men that are on the headed to the transfer portal from the Zips, and that is Brian Masai and
mhm.
Timothy Chesondin, are both headed to the portal. I think have multiple years of eligibility, almost like 3+ for I think Chesondin, and then 3 seasons of cross country and 2 in track for Masai. Masai in particular has showcased some great talent on the grass, on the track. He's probably like just a perfect fit for Arkansas. The international, like just tons of talent. I think would be fine tuned perfectly in that program. And then Chesondin, you could make the same argument about him going to Arkansas as well. Not hasn't quite shown as much talent as Masai, but certainly worth taking a
Well,
shot at.
Chesondin was an All-American on the grass.
Yeah, that's
On
true.
on the
Yeah, yeah,
on the track on the track, yeah,
yeah,
he has
yeah,
not
yeah.
been great on the track comparatively.
Yep.
Masai 13:34 for 5K made the 2023 outdoor national meet, but Chesondin was an All American this
Yep.
past year. So yeah, they're both. I think the consistency is certainly a challenge there, but if you just want raw talent, I can't help but wonder: do you think these guys are coming as a pair? I don't think so. I don't
I
know.
I
I just have no
I
idea.
think that's rare just because you have to the amount of money that like a program would have to set aside for both of these guys to come, it just limits the field so significantly if they're just like, hey, we got to come together.
Yeah,
It would be kind of cool if they did, I think,
yeah. I
and for them
think
to be teammates still, but I find that unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Arkansas just being like, "This is our year, go all
Yeah,
in." They grab both of them, um, and like I kind of don't blame Arkansas. Like if you're looking for like a year to go all in, this is it.
sure.
Because Kiprop, Shearer, and Karamiego all come
Yeah.
back, and if you land those two, you have a top five.
Mhm.
You have five All Americans, and now you're. I don't know if you're threatening Oklahoma State, but you're like, hey, if we have a miracle, like I don't want to say a miracle day, but a really, really, really good day, you can beat them.
Or if Oklahoma one of Oklahoma State's big guns goes down or due to injury or just has a bad day, like yeah, you set yourself up to be kind of that next team in line
Yeah.
if something happens, which is cross country. You absolutely never know. Any other names or teams that you see as good fits for these guys?
It's just the conventional spots where a lot of these Kenyans will go. There's certain schools who will try to recruit them. It's New Mexico, it's the Arkansas, it's the Iowa States, it's the Bamas, it's the who else I'm missing.
Does Oklahoma State have money for like one of these guys?
Oh,
I
I'm sure they do. Like I know Oklahoma State is as close to fully funded as you can possibly
Yeah,
be.
yeah, but I mean, obviously they're loaded and they're not really I mean, are they losing Masai or
Who?
Masai? Yeah,
No,
no,
Masai's
or
a
I was
freshman. You're
Mayor.
thinking
Sorry, yeah,
Mayor.
Masai.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They're losing Mayor, I think. Um, I don't know if they're really losing anyone outside of that. Oh,
yeah,
maybe Shitsama, maybe?
yeah, possibly.
I'd have to let me hold on a second. I'm right here. Just if you could I gotta put in like some Jeopardy music. Shitsama. No, he comes back. I lied. So like it's gonna be very, very tough
I
to
mean, if
beat
they could get
Oklahoma
one of
State.
these guys, I mean, that I think makes sense. Like, there's a lot less risk, and you're still getting nearly as much eligibility as you would be if you were recruiting someone from overseas, right? You've seen what they can do already in the NCAA system, and I mean, that would make them nearly unbeatable. I think.
Yeah, I mean their seventh man from last year was 85th. Will Muirhead. This is like ridiculous. So oh
Yeah,
well.
that's wild. Yeah, I agree with all those typical names. I'm sure we're gonna get like just an out of left field school one of these times for someone like Masai or Chesondin. I don't know who it would be, but it would be really cool. I think if they just went to kind of a more like out there program and like was able to lift them to national relevancy.
I mean, I don't think they have the money to do that. Like a lot of
No,
those smaller programs
yeah,
just
it would
don't
have
have
to be.
that money.
It'd have to be like a program, a bigger program that's been on the outskirts of national relevance for whatever reason for a couple years and is
Could be
making a
Florida.
Yeah, yeah. Florida makes
Yeah,
sense.
although I don't think they're going to put distance money into the men's team.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
if they feel like, I mean, especially with Masai, maybe they feel like they can get track value. I mean, points out of them, and when it comes to the track,
True.
then yeah, I think that's a worthwhile mention. All right, let's move on and let's go to the women's side and let's go with Emily Covert, who is hitting the transfer portal. She has, I believe, 1 year of
I
eligibility.
believe so.
Is expected,
Yes.
yeah, 1 season of cross and indoor, no outdoor eligibility. Joined Tennessee from Colorado this past winter and now is back on the portal. Just didn't seem like she ever like made her mark with Tennessee. Was 50th at NCAA's, but just not quite the dominant self that she was in
I
years
mean, at least she
past.
was racing.
Yeah,
You
she was
know,
racing,
like
which is great.
she was racing, and she was somewhat competitive.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that she was the same Covert from a few years back, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Because I mean, yeah, if she's at top fitness, she's obviously challenged for 10,000 meter titles, one of the better cross country runners in the country. Who do you what fit makes sense for her with this limited eligibility?
It's Northern Arizona. It's Northern Arizona. Like there is no she should just go there right now. NAU should open the gates. There is no reason why she should not be in an NAU singlet this fall. She has 1 year of eligibility. NAU is trying to make another run, and they can make another run at a
Yep.
national title. They absolutely can. She was 50th last year, and if that's like her floor, then what's her ceiling? Like she's a two-time All American between all 3 seasons. She's an aerobic centric runner. She went to Colorado, trained at altitude, and did well at altitude. There, NAU is the answer. It should not be anywhere else. That's my rant.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really disagree. I think that a team that's taking a shot on someone like this has to be one that doesn't care that much about track, is only focused on cross country, and feels like they're just one piece away from really either challenging for a title, challenging for a podium, or something like that. And that limits the list significantly. And really, it's like NAU, NC State, um, Oklahoma State makes a little sense to me as well. They're going to be replacing Taylor Rowe. Um, yeah, I but yeah, NAU makes way too much sense.
NC State
Yeah.
might go try to get involved. You don't think so?
No, I do. Yeah, I mentioned them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Oh, you
agree.
did? Okay, I missed you.
Yeah,
I missed you there. And then of course I think Florida would get involved. I do. like, so.
I
Okay.
think she had outdoor eligibility. Then, like, absolutely, Florida gets more involved.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, I forgot. I don't think she has outdoor. You're right. Okay. Next one, David Mullarkey. This was a big one. 1328, 742, 742 3K, 1328 5K. He was 40th at the NCAA XC championships last fall, but he's actually considerably better than that, given like the season that he had. I think he was closer to like a top 20 name, almost, if not at least top 25. Where do you like him going?
Yeah, he was probably one of the guys that just flew under the radar most of the season for like, I mean, you look at his times, it's incredible that he did, and we mentioned him a couple times, but it never seemed like he got his full due, considering his accomplishments across the board. He's like I know he's leaving probably partially due to Bremen retiring, but he's like the classic Florida State
He
transfer
is.
target, which is pretty funny to me. So with that in mind, I do like him going to another like ACC kind of East Coast school. So the two that I have circled are North Carolina and Virginia.
You have Virginia. Okay. Yeah, I think he strikes me as a North Carolina guy. If you get him, you're effectively replacing Alex Phillip in my eyes.
Yep,
You already have Max Murphy there. Strand comes back. We assume Wolf is coming back, and you then just pray that one of the youngsters is
develops.
developed
Yeah.
by now. Yeah, and I think they will. Although we've been saying that for the past 2 years, and it hasn't really happened. But this is the year, and I think if that happens, then they're a podium team, no doubt. I struggled on this. I was just like Notre Dame. That they have history of long distance grad transfers. Maybe I think they would. I don't know. Would Oregon try to get someone in there to inject some firepower. Honestly, the big one that I came back to was Oklahoma State. I was like, you lose Mayer, and you go get Mullarkey. He's from the UK, and listen, they've worked with
Yeah,
UK All Americans
they have.
before. They had, um, oh gosh, they had Rory Leonard, and then there was another guy who I'm completely blanking on right now. But he's another stud. He can win them another national title as a team. So I can't help but think Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and the two other schools from like a UK kind of connection, Tulsa could
Also,
would love to have him.
mhm.
He'd be huge for them. And then New Mexico, coach there worked a lot at Bradley, worked with a lot of UK athletes.
That's true. So I mean,
Um,
that can also mean Louisville
yeah, and
because Coach
that was going to
Franklin
be my
also.
next thing. I was going to
Ah, sorry.
say Louisville. I was like, we haven't said Louisville at all yet, and
Well,
like they're probably going to get involved with someone,
you would think.
and try to pick up, and they could be kind of that team that I was talking about that's kind of comes out of left field a little bit, and makes a hard push for someone that we're not expecting to go there.
Yeah, I mean, because they did like Louisville added like a recent NAI standout. His name is like Gustav Benson. I think he's from Belgium. No, Denmark. Excuse me, he's from Denmark. So like, yeah, I mean, they're adding transfers who are internationals.
Let's move on and let's go to Izaiah Steury, who is headed to the transfer portal once again. Started at Notre Dame, transferred to Oregon this past summer. Showed definitely some solid flashes of the type of runner that he was, at Notre Dame, but we had it didn't seem like everything clicked right at
Right.
Oregon. I think is a fair assessment. If he does end up back in the East Coast, it would be interesting to see where he lands up. I think again, North Carolina is like they so desperately need someone to replace Alex Phillip, and with some like Steury is not just like a one season guy. He's got 3 full years of eligibility. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Louisville, we just mentioned Louisville. Like this is kind of the guy that you go kind of a little more all in for with this amount of eligibility as a kind of a tent pole to build the program around. There's a host of options. I think for him just due to his eligibility and his potential.
Liberty.
Yeah,
I
I saw
I
you
think
mention that.
I
That's a good one.
I think Liberty could realistically get him. In fact, I might even put the betting odds as them as the favorites. He has a very heavy strength, faith based background. And Liberty is a very Christian university. That could be a great pairing, and it's kind of a smaller school. It's not your conventional superstar power like a Notre Dame, like an Oregon, and clearly it has not worked out at Notre Dame or Oregon. Maybe it's time to go like a slightly different route. Liberty has been able to work extremely well with a handful of individual distant standouts in the past. Like this is not a team that's just like getting a run over. Like this is a good
Right.
team,
Hmm.
historically speaking, at least in the past you know last 2 decades. And they've produced like Sam Chalanga or you know uh, who else I'm forgetting. What's the obvious other name I'm forgetting?
Yeah, I'm blanking on it too.
Yeah, I
They've had some great women's teams,
yeah.
too over or great, very solid women's teams over the last few years. And then I also like the one you put in here, Indiana. I think Indiana with Coach Hines now needs a little jump start, and I
Yep.
think he could provide that for him.
Yeah, I think Indiana actually is a very close second to Liberty, I would say.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah. No, don't disagree at all. Let's move on to Molly Hudson, Boston College star who is entering the transfer portal as a grad student. Should have 1 full year of eligibility across the board. Has run 204 in the 8, 413 in the 15, and 430 in the mile. So I know you mentioned some West Coast teams, the obvious choices for like a middle distance star, Oregon, Washington. I think that like the East Coast, and in particular, I think Georgetown is like in
Yeah.
my mind the most like it's another kind of Catholic, like very like university, very similar kind of feel. I think to Boston College, unless she's trying to get away from that, like that kind of school. I think it would be. I mean, it's geographically not far from where she's used to. Very middle distance oriented. I think would be a very nice addition for them as well.
You know who I completely blanked on when writing this? Providence.
Yeah, Providence is like, yeah. They haven't really gone like the transfer portal route.
So
Uh,
they did with Kenzie Doyle recently, and
right.
that's why I'm only. And we actually have to talk about her at another time.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's going to be way more transfers we'll talk about, and she impacts Providence quite a bit. The only reason why I'm hesitant to say Providence for Molly Hudson is because that transfer spot went to Doyle, and I don't know. I'm like, well, okay, is there other money around? It seems like Providence will bring in like one transfer a
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
It was like Annabelle Eastman, the year before, Kenzie Doyle this year. But the mile contingent you could have of
Yeah.
Flockhart May and um Flockhart May and oh my, who are we talking? Hudson. Thank you. I couldn't think of her
Yeah,
name.
Hudson. Yeah. I was like, are you trying to get somebody else in there?
No, I mean, like you're beginning to like put together like a potentially like historic trio. I mean, because Flockhart and May might be like there's a world they go 1-2 next year in the mile.
Absolutely. They I mean, without Ramsden, I think should enter as the favorite, and Flockhart has obviously shown flashes.
Yeah. So yeah, where else do you like outside of Georgetown?
I think like a Penn State makes sense for her as
Mhm.
well. Again, you're staying in that same geographical area. I would love to see like Villanova get involved, but it just seems
Yeah.
like that program has been lost in the wilderness a little bit on the women's side,
Yep.
and it doesn't seem to be at like a perfect intersection of where Hudson would need them to be at this moment.
Yeah. No, I would be surprised if that's where they end up. I don't think the I don't really I don't know what Villanova's doing. I don't
That's
really know
that's
what
and
they're.
that's why I'm like that's why I just want to throw their name out there because
Yeah.
they need to do something like, and this doesn't seem like the right fit, but maybe they would go for it.
Last one, Simon Kelati. We reported this yesterday. We're recording this Friday. The NCAA D2 3K champion from this past winter. He was also runner-up at the NCAA D2 XC championships this past fall back in 2023. Simon Kelati is heading to Tennessee as a graduate transfer. Massive win
Yep.
for Tennessee. Really needed this. You lose Abdalla, who is like really the focal low stick point of that team last year. You lose a handful of like other veterans to expired eligibility. You bring back Gabe Sanchez and Dean Casey, which
Yeah.
is a great one too.
Hmm.
You needed one more veteran because even if the youngsters do come up and you get one or two guys to have a great year, you needed one more.
Yeah.
Needed one more guy.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to see how Coach Carlson's built this Tennessee team. Obviously, he went heavy on the transfer portal initially, but then he had that huge like recruiting class last
Huge.
year, and that's certainly I think going to be paying dividends. And I think that's the right way of doing it. Like you bring your program up to national relevance quickly with those transfer portal, but then you kind of sow the seeds for the future with a really good recruiting class.
Yep.
And now it's about like supplementing here and there as this recruiting class grows, and then maybe going all in a year or two. So I think having Kelati, he has 1 full year of eligibility coming in. He's that perfect supplement to keep them nationally relevant, get these young guys like Sanchez, like Casey, more NCAA experience, and having another guy that they can run and train with, who has a little bit more experience, I think is huge for their development as well.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who's still very in the NCAA scene and whatnot, and he's like, I don't know, man. Like you think like Carlson would have done more by Tennessee now, and I'm like, I mean, the men are qualifying for the national meet for the first time, like in God knows how long, 20 years, right? And like Americans, like it takes time for them. Like, could he go overseas and
No.
grab someone there and they be an instant impact? Yes, but his route is going to be a little bit more traditional. And I don't know. It's going to take time, and they're still like a top 20 team at this point, or at least close to it. So, yeah, I think it's very easy to get like we want results now kind of thing. But I don't hate this move as long as the overall goal is we're building for a sustainable long term future. If that's what this program's like,
Right. Yeah. If this is taking away a scholarship spot to a really good like freshman, then I don't love it.
right?
But
Yeah,
like if it's like they've hit on all their freshman targets that they realistically could get, and they still had another scholarship that they could dole out, he makes a lot of sense because yeah, I think 2 years is where like next year and 2 years out is where this team goes from that top 20-25 team to podium contender. I think is where they should realistically be aiming their sights.
is Kelati an All American this fall?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, these times like 13:34, 5K, 7:57, 3K. Those are like
I
the
think he's a little
prerequisites.
better in 3K.
Yeah,
What's that?
those are like the prerequisites to be able to be All American now. That doesn't guarantee you
It does
a
not.
spot. Obviously, he has a good track record on the grass in at the D2 level, and we've seen guys from D2 and D3 translate that fairly well to the Division 1 level. I would probably have him outside of my top 40 right now,
Hmm.
but I think he's like a top 50 ish name at this point.
Yeah, that'll be a fun
Yeah,
conversation
that's
to
gonna
have
be.
when the
I'm already thinking
rankings.
about that. He's gonna be a bear to rank. Oh, that's gonna be rough.
um, Last question here. Where would you rank Tennessee right now?
I think like 22 maybe.
I'd say 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think they're obviously we haven't sat down and run through all the teams, but I think they're probably just outside the top 20, but within the top 25.
Yeah. I mean, and actually, you want to know like the biggest like winners of that whole Florida State thing of Brahman leaving and then Mullarkey goes is that now Tennessee and Alabama no longer have to deal with
Yep.
Florida. Well, I mean, maybe they do, right? Maybe they still remain nationally competitive, but you lose Mullarkey, that gets much more difficult. Um, but now Florida State becomes a little bit less of a threat and be
And
taking
they've
like
been
a
a
big sigh
staple.
of relief.
Yeah, they've been a staple in that region.
Yeah.
They've always been one of those two teams that take one of those automatic qualifying spots. So, yeah, just having that free up is massive for Tennessee.
Yeah. So, all right. What else? Are we good? Is that it? Is that done?
Yep, I think that's all the recruits that we had.
Cool. All right. We will have way more on the way. We got coaching news. There's going to be way more coaching news this summer. There's going to be way more transfers this summer. Um, Rankings will probably begin in late July for those wondering. In the meantime, go do us a favor. Apple, go to the show on Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the very bottom. You'll see a ability to like write a review. You can put your review in there. It would mean the world. 5 stars as well. Spotify, it's right on that homepage. And then YouTube, subscribe, smash that subscribe button, as the kids say nowadays. And that is it.
All right. Well, until next week, Garrett, I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you.